and he accepted, took over the business. Unfortunately, didn't really last long with him. Lasted about 4 months, I think. He had some personal issues. He kind of disappeared, unfortunately. Still owes us money to this day. Let's have a look at the most burning questions from my viewers. The most popular one by far was, what is your name? So this is quite funny, I think. Lots of people asking that. Don't really have long intros for my videos. I get straight to the point. I don't really introduce myself, so no one really knows my name. So it's Richard. Nice to meet you. Where in Britain is your accent from? So my accent is a bit of a hybrid. I spent 20 years of my life, first 20 years of my life, growing up in Bromley, southeast London Borough, Kent. So it's a bit of a Kent and London accent from there. Then I went to Liverpool for 3 years for university, met my wife, and then we moved to Sheffield. So I've been living in Sheffield about, must be 13, 14 years, something like that. So a good chunk of my life. So it's a bit of a hybrid from Yorkshire and London accent. So I can pick up the Yorkshire words that I say, or the way I say them when I'm editing my video, which is quite amusing to me. And my family take a little bit of mickey out of me when I go down there and say some words in a funny way, in a non-London way. Thoughts on Sheffield? I'm a big fan of Sheffield. I do like it. It's just near the Peak District, so I've got that access there. It's a friendly, tight-knit city, really. Like I say, near the Peak District, so there's lots of options to go and do things. Where exactly is Sheffield? So Sheffield, South Yorkshire in England, north of England. The Full Monty was filmed and set here, if you know that film. Good film, I recommend it. How tall are you? Quite tall, really. Makes it tricky for me to film my videos and get me in frame as well as all the plants in the background. So I'm 6'6", which is fairly tall. Just under 2 meters, I believe. So that presents lots of challenges in my life. One of them is getting onto aeroplanes and being comfortable, especially if I'm going long distance. This is quite a funny comment from Evangeline8095, probably one of the funniest comments I got. What books do I read on rainy days in Sheffield? Do I like animals as much as plants? Do I have pets or just pests? Is the wife real or just a myth? The wife, I can confirm, is just a myth. No, not really. She's real, been married about 11 years now, I think. Hopefully she doesn't watch that and get me into trouble. She is real, doesn't want to be in the videos or anything like that. Do I have pets or just pests? Just have pests. They keep me company. I'll look after these plants, see my fungus nuts hopping around. So I used to have a cat. It was Tim, called Tin, and he sadly passed away a few years ago. And I've got another pet, got 2 kids instead. What do I read on rainy days in Sheffield? Don't tend to read fiction or anything like that. Last book I read was a help book. What was it called? The YouTube Formula by Daryl Eves. Help book on how to do YouTube successfully. Other than that, just kind of read about football and BBC News and about YouTube. YouTube seems to consume my life at the moment, so I read that on the internet. Is your wife as crazy for caring for plants? She likes plants. Not as much as I do. She's a bit perplexed by my obsession with plants, to be honest. So she kind of lets me get on with caring for the house plants because there's so many of them. She doesn't really want to get involved in it. More her thing is starting seedlings and setting up bulbs for the garden. Seems to like that. She's got a few seeds in the corner there, and then my grown lights in the living room. So that keeps her busy. She set up a lasagna planter in the garden. I think she saw that on TikTok or Instagram or something, where you have layers of plants that come up when you put bulbs in, all that kind of stuff. So she seems to like gardening more than me, and for me it's the other way around. I prefer house plants. What are the plant muggles in your life? Do they think you're crazy? I think it was quite interesting when I started the channel and I started putting videos up about house plants. Got a lot of comments from my friends and my family as well, saying I didn't know you liked plants so much. Didn't know you had so many plants in your house. So it's quite interesting putting it out in the internet. I was a little bit unsure how it would go down, but I just put it out anyway and just started the channel, see how it did, and put my hobby to the world. What's your wife's hero villain plants? My wife's favourite plant, I believe, is the Pothos Devil's Ivy. I'm not sure if you can see it in shot. I've got it growing up there along the picture there. She likes the decor element of that. I don't know what her least favourite plant is. Probably something quite boring, like a Dracaena, like me. Not a fan of that plant. Got 2 kids. Got a girl, 7 years old, and a boy, 3 years old, so they keep me plenty busy enough. Bit of a madhouse here when everyone's in the house, lots of screaming, lots of noise and all that kind of stuff. Keeps me busy. Quite a challenge keeping the plants safe from particularly the 3-year-old, because he's quite inquisitive and he wants to get in there and quite tactile, pull off leaves and flowers, especially my orchids I've got over there. He's always nothing at them, so I'm training him to kind of not touch the leaves and the flowers as much as he is. What did you do while you're doing as your job or alongside YouTube? So I'm fortunate enough now that YouTube is now my career, so to speak. It's been my career about a month, just over a month. I quit my last job at the end of March 2023, so I've been doing this full time for over a month. Quite a privileged position really, that YouTube, you're able to earn a little bit of income from YouTube to support your lifestyle. So before that, a little bit of history about how I got to this point. So I grew up in London, or South East London, went to Liverpool University, and I did architecture as a degree. I thought that was my passion, turned out it wasn't so much. So I did 3 years there, met my wife while I was at university. She was in 3rd year, I was in 1st year. And in my 3rd year of university, me and my wife kind of set up a little catering business. So I went from architecture to catering, and then to my other career, now to the YouTube. So we did catering for like weddings and parties in my 3rd year. I guess we kind of thought that we were quite good at it, and got quite good feedback whenever we did that. So decided to pursue that business after I finished university. So we did that in Sheffield. So we did that for about, I think 8 years, but a stint of my life. Quite an intensive business, 24/7. And we decided that wasn't really going to fit in with starting a family. So we decided to sell it, put it on the market. So it was on the market for about a year. Didn't really have any takers. So we offered it to an employee, and he accepted, took over the business. Unfortunately, didn't really last long with him. Lasted about 4 months, I think. He had some personal issues. He kind of disappeared, unfortunately. Still owes us money to this day, because we kind of structured the deal in payments over the next year, I think it was, or next 2 years maybe. So he disappeared, closed the business. I think he disappeared with all the deposits from all the weddings that were scheduled in, as well as our money. So that was a bit of a shame, but hey ho, never mind. You move on. And then I didn't want to go into architecture, so went into accountancy instead. So I did my accountancy degree, SEMA, and then I was doing that. How long have I been doing that? Maybe 8 years. I worked my way up to finance manager. That was my last job, finance manager for a business here in Sheffield. And I quit that last month. And now I'm doing Sheffield full time, which is great, because it's the thing I love doing really, talking about plants and putting it on the internet. And it might surprise you that you can earn a little bit of money to kind of sustain your lifestyle. And I like the fact that I can kind of give me flexibility to do the things that I want. Yesterday I was looking after my son, because he normally goes to Granny and Grandad on a Wednesday, but they're away. So I was looking after him yesterday. It gives me that flexibility to do that. So I was watching Toy Story with him yesterday afternoon. My favourite plant is the Philodendron Birkin. I'm sure a lot of you will know that. Always bang on about that. I like the pinstripe variegation in the leaves. Recent favourites. I recently got into orchids. I like them. And also like the Marble Queen, Pothos Marble Queen. I like Pothos and Philodendron. I like ones with variegation. Tend to be my favourite ones. What's a plant that I'd have in my collection I would never buy? I'd guess the Philodendron Pink Princess. Quite expensive. Bit of a wish list plant, but quite expensive. I don't tend to buy expensive plants. I tend to buy them quite small and cheap and then grow them out. But with that kind of thing, with wish list plants, they're expensive. I find you have a wish list plant, you buy it, and then you get bored of it within a month, if that. Then you're on to the next thing, that you want. So just pick up plants in your garden centre that you like, affordable. That's my kind of motto on it. Have I had any studies to do with my content? No studies with my content. It's all just passion, really. I've been into houseplants a long while. Kind of accelerated during COVID, during lockdowns. Didn't really have anything to do, so I was just buying more and more plants and watching loads of YouTubers, reading about it lots and lots. How much time do you spend caring for plants? Not that time consuming really. I kind of leave them to do their thing, and then I kind of check if they need watering on the weekend. If they don't, then I'll leave it till the next weekend. I kind of leave them during the week to do their thing. I fertilise once a month. It does take a while to water all the plants. Got probably about 200 plants in the house. Probably takes a good hour to water them all and fertilise them. So not too bad. Was there a person that's been inspiration on the matter? Parentage, Welsh? Monty Dunn? Do you have a garden? Are you growing vegetables? I have a garden, a small garden really. I'm not growing vegetables, don't tend to grow vegetables really. Don't really have the space for it. So me and my wife like ornamental plants in the garden really. Got some strawberries, they keep coming up every year. They're easy to look after, strawberries. Is there anything else edible in there? I've got herbs and stuff on the patio outside the back door. Any plants with a special meaning for me? No, not really. I've got my oldest plants. My oldest plant is a peace lily down there. I've had that a long time. Must be a good maybe 12, 13, 14 years, something like that. So I'm fond of that one. Keep it going as long as I can. Are there any books that you would recommend for the budding plant parents? I do have a book, but I can't remember what it's called. I think Plantopedia or something. That's a good book to have. Lots of information in there. If a plant is dying, firstly I'll try and diagnose why and see if I can get it back to health. But if it just continues to go on a downward spiral, then I'll just get rid of it really. And I don't become too attached really. If I want to try again, I might buy again, but otherwise I think there's just some plants that aren't destined to not do well in your home really, so you just kind of move on. What started your plant journey? Can't really remember. I think it was just a gradual process. Like I said, we got the peace lily for the house and there's a few other plants dotted around in our old flat. It's just something, I don't know, you just, as you get older, you kind of get into these things, don't you? And when you start buying your own house, you want it to look as nice as possible. So you think, a few plants dotted around would be nice. And then I guess it was COVID that put my obsession into overdrive because I didn't really have anything else to do. So I was just buying more and more plants and learning how to look after them. Who decorated the house, you or your wife? Well, I'd love to say it was me, but basically it was my wife. She can take full credit for that, particularly the kitchen. This is basically her design. Anything with plants is more on me. So I've got a little shelf unit on the windowsill in both the living room and dining room. That was all me. And I've got some resistance from the wife when I wanted to put that up, but she likes it now, so I can take credit for that, which is good. How many plants do I have, and have you ever imported plants? And like I said, I've got about 200 plants, I think. Maybe more with some of the propagations I've got going on and some of the seedlings. So I've got lots and lots of plants. And have I ever imported? I did import for the plant unboxing video from plants.com. They're based in the Netherlands. I imported them during autumn, during cold weather, and they were in a bit of a shock going through cold weather, only just recovering from now. It's a bit of a shame. Did you grow up having plants in your house? Which I don't remember if my mum and dad had any plants. I don't seem to remember many. Might have had a couple dotted around, maybe more flowers, cut flowers and all that kind of stuff, but I don't remember having plants in the house when I was growing up. Now, my mum and dad, they have some plants in their home, mainly because I buy them plants every time it's a birthday or a special occasion or something, so I'm filling their house with plants. What do you like most about caring for plants? I do like propagation as well. I do find it very satisfying taking a cutting from a plant, sticking it into water, and then watching the roots slowly develop over the next few weeks, and then watching when you plant it up into soil, watching new stems grow. I find that fascinating. I do like that. I like that particularly with a Ficus elastica. Quickest plant deterioration death you ever experienced? For me, it was the croton. Bought a croton from a garden centre, and I think pretty much as soon as I put it down, it died. I think it had spider mites looking back at it now. So I think I remember it having webbing at the base of the plant. I thought never again croton, but for my video on overwatering my plants, well, I did that for a month. One of them was a croton, and it lasted surprisingly well, still going strong, so see if I can keep that alive. Do you worry about your plants when you travel? Not particularly, no. I tend to only go away for a week at the most. I check all the plants before I go away. If there's any that are dry, I give them water, and that'll be absolutely fine for a week. Then I check them when I come back, so I don't really worry about them particularly. Do I get plant envy? I was in Portugal last year, south of Portugal, in the Algarve. And they have lots of plants that you would have as house plants in the UK, just growing outside. There was a massive Monstera deliciosa in one of the restaurants in their garden. It was absolutely massive, growing up their wall, and I was quite smitten with that. So that was my envy there. Yeah, there are plants that are tricky to handle in our English climate, particularly in the winter, because of the low light. The sun sets in Sheffield probably 4 o'clock, 3:30 during the winter, and it rises, well, it gets daylight probably about 9 o'clock, so we don't get much sunlight. So that's quite tricky for our plants. They tend to look a little bit miserable during winter. Ultimate wish list plant. There was an orchid that fetched for, what was it, $300,000, I think. I'd quite like that. What else do you like to do? Do you play any instruments? Don't play any instruments. I'd quite like to have played the guitar, but I don't know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, I guess. I like football. I support Arsenal because I'm from London. So I was quite excited this year with the title push, but it seems to have fallen away recently with our loss to Man City. So big football fan. What else do I like? I like films as well. My favourite film is Goodfellas. I'm like big into series as well. My favourite series at the moment is Succession. I think that's the best thing since Breaking Bad. Really good program that's on at the moment. It's the last season this season. So if you're not watching that, I recommend it. Oh, and I like to cook as well. What sort of things do you like to cook and eat? I had that catering business, and my part of that business was the cooking, or looking after the food as well as the finance. So yeah, I like cooking. My dad's Italian, so I like cooking Italian food. Also I like Mexican food and quite spicy food as well. Do we tend to eat like quesadillas and burritos, pasta, pizza, all the good stuff really. Burgers, I do love a burger. Five Guys is probably one of my favourite restaurants. I do like the burgers there, and the chips with the peanut oil. Delicious. What do you think of aquariums? Do you own one? I don't own one. Don't really have the space for it. That's the thing. If I had lived, if I was mega rich and lived in a mansion, then I'd have a few aquariums dotted around, because I do think they look interesting when they're absolutely massive and they take over a wall or something. Have you ever visited France? Did you like it? Love from France? I have visited France a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was, maybe 4 years ago. Can't remember where it was though. Might have been near Rennes. I love the food. There was a little patisserie near where we stayed. Went there every single day, every morning, for fresh bread and pastries. Absolutely delicious, beautiful. Can you solve a Rubik's Cube? I can't, unfortunately. I've not really tried that extensively, to be honest, but I just know I've not really got a mind for it. Ever visited the US? I have visited the US. Who would say is one of my favourite countries. I visited New York first, absolutely loved it. Really nice people as well. I like going on the subway, seeing the Statue of Liberty, going up the Empire State Building as well. And I love the food as well, really nice food in New York. And then when we sold the business, we took a break for a couple of months and went on a tour of America. So we did kind of the more southern bits. It was January, so we wanted the warm weather. So we flew to Miami. Absolutely love Miami. Fantastic city, one of my favorites. Went up Florida, Fort Lauderdale, saw Tampa. That was all fantastic. Then we went to New Orleans. That was fantastic. Just gearing up for Mardi Gras, I think they were. I love going to Cafe du Monde. That was fantastic. Then we went to Texas. Flew into Houston. Then we went to Dallas. Austin, really liked. Fantastic barbecues and all that kind of stuff. So the little tour of the kind of some of the southern states of America. Absolutely fantastic. Really loved it. My favourite show at the moment is Succession, as I've already talked about, but of all time, it would be Breaking Bad and Friends and Only Fools and Horses, a TV show in the UK. They're my favourites. What do you do a day in the life vlog? Not for this channel, probably. I'd have to set up a new channel to do that kind of stuff, because I don't think people will be interested in that particularly. They're hungry for plant tips on this channel, so that's what I tend to give. But maybe one day I'll do a little vlog channel if people will be interested in that. Let me know in the comments. What's the meanest comment you've read on any of your videos, and what was your reaction to it? We do get the odd mean comments every now and then. They're quite rare, really, because YouTube does a good job of censoring when people are rude to you. They kind of hide it. They don't publish it, and they leave it for you to review. And they give you a warning by saying this comment has offensive language or something like that, and then you can click on to view it. And I always do, just to kind of see what people are saying about me. It's quite funny. So I think I've had maybe three 3 or 4 of those. So quite lucky really that I've got such a nice community on the channel. Everyone's quite well-meaning and, you know, here to learn plants. Don't tend to get offensive comments. But for those ones that I did, just delete them and kind of hide the user from the channel so that they can't comment anymore. Do you follow any fellow plant YouTubers other than Plantarina? I do follow a couple. I like Kill This Plant, Leah Kill This Plant, I like that channel. Leafy Luster as well, it's a good channel there. She recently put up a good video about her Monstera deliciosa. Pete versus Plants, I like that one. And Everything Plants as well, I like his channel. There are a few others as well that I like, that I can't quite remember the name of them at the moment. What motivated you to start YouTube? So I've been watching YouTube for a long time, maybe 10 years or so. Is YouTube that old? I think it is that old, isn't it? I've always thought, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could do a little channel, but I never thought I would be good enough, really. I think that was the problem. That's what put me off for so long, starting a channel, and I wasn't sure what to do it on. And then when lockdown happened, I was buying all these plants, getting into them in a much more serious way. After Christmas 2021 into 2022, January, I thought I'll just do a little tour of my house plants, put it on YouTube and see if anyone watches it. It was a terrible video, it really was shocking. It's still on the channel if you're interested, but I wouldn't recommend this. Absolutely awful video. So yeah, just went from there. Got a few views on that, and then I just kept putting out videos on plants and just kind of grew from there, really. And the question I'll end with goes a little bit deep. Whoever created the plants and us clearly have impeccable taste. That's what I'll say. Hope you enjoyed this little Q&A session, and I'll see you again in the next video. Thanks for watching.